Hey there everybody, it's Mark Crilley. I'm back with another video. This is number 6 in a series of ongoing videos that I call topic videos. What happens is I put out a certain art-related topic to my viewers, get their responses, and bring all the comments together into a video in which I respond to the comments and, kind of have like a virtual conversation with my viewers. Now, the topic today is criticism. How do you handle criticism? What are your thoughts on getting criticism as an artist? And as usual, I'm going to be getting a little bit of work done, inking this page here from Brody's Ghost, Book 6, as I begin responding to these comments. So the first one comes from AKA GoQ95. And it is this: I am a big believer in the customer is always right. So I try to listen to all criticism and often seek it from friends with different interests so that I can try to improve my work so that everyone likes it. Now what I'm doing with these first two comments is offering, two different contrasting points of view on criticism. And this first one is definitely the one from somebody who likes criticism or finds it valuable. And I just liked that phrase, the customer is always right, because that's certainly one way of looking at it. If you are a creative person and you feel that you are doing this work with a certain type of person in mind, and an audience, then yeah, you may indeed feel they are always right. You are not ever going to question their judgment. They're the people who are buying your work. They're supporting you. You kind of owe it to them almost to pay careful attention to what they have to say. So, yeah, that's one point of view, and maybe you can sense that with my next comment, I'm going to present the contrasting attitude towards criticism, and maybe I'll come back to this idea of the customer is always right later on. But let's move on then to the second comment, this one from Victor Stone. I think a quote by Lady Gaga is spot on for this topic. Ignore all hatred and criticism. Live for what you create and die protecting it. In typical Lady Gaga dramatic fashion. Live for what you create and die protecting it. I just love how she goes all out with that one. But indeed, this is really going in the complete opposite direction. Ignore all hatred and criticism. And it's sort of interesting if this is indeed an accurate quote from Lady Gaga that, and who knows, maybe if she said it, she may have said it quite casually. But it's almost like equating hatred with criticism, as if those two things go hand in hand. I don't think that's necessarily the case, and maybe that's not what she meant. But she is basically saying, ignore all criticism, which is a pretty bold statement. Pay no attention to it. Your work is yours, and you should not pay any attention to what critics say. Now, I wonder if that has to do with, as you get more advanced in your career, and she's talking about professional criticism, like music critics who dislike the music of Lady Gaga, and indeed I can see where she would want to just ignore that and say, forget it, I'm not going to pay attention to the music critics. I wonder when she was younger, when she was first starting out, if she had that exact same attitude, because I think there is a danger when you're still a student and you're still learning, this idea of ignoring all criticism seems a little unwise to me. If you were ignoring all criticism, you were maybe missing the opportunity to improve yourself as an artist, and we'll certainly come to more of those types of comments later on. But I thought it was sort of interesting to see the two different points of view, and to maybe not take sides, but to sort of just present them and put them out there and say, there is no right and wrong here on this one. Different artists have different ways of reacting to criticism, and they may or may not, want to have anything to do with it. And as we go along, maybe I'll start to present my own views. Not surprisingly, they're between these two extremes. I pick and choose, as many of my viewers do. I saw in the comment section, you choose between the comments that seem worthy of the criticism that you think is worthy of your attention, and you ignore the stuff that maybe seems more like haters types of comments. And I saw a lot of comments that were along those lines. Well, let's move along to number 3. But before I do that, I'm actually going to hit the pause button because I realized I'm using my very fine-tipped pen here, and I think I need to get the thicker tipped micron at hand before I go any further. Okay, we're back with my thicker 08 micron to continue working on the hair here. This next comment is kind of a long one. I may actually need to break it into 2 pieces as I put it out on the screen here. But it is from Christina Lacey, and the comment is, "It's often hard to get constructive criticism in real life. Most of the time peers tell you what they think you want to hear so they won't hurt your feelings. On the flip side, you can't take criticism seriously online either because people tend to be dung pancakes when hiding behind an ambiguous screen name." Now, this phrase, dung pancakes, is new to me, but I think I'm going to have to start using that. Dung pancakes. But the first part of that really was what I was interested in. It's often hard to get constructive criticism in real life. Indeed, some people, they don't want to hurt your feelings. And they will avoid saying anything negative. And I thought it was sort of interesting because usually we imagine criticism as something that hurts you and you want to avoid it. But this is kind of the other way around. Someone who kind of hungers for criticism and finds that they can't get any because everyone's trying to be so nice to spare them any pain. And they're actually like, man, would someone please just tell me the truth? And not, try to shield my feelings. So it's sort of interesting that. But on the other hand, it's not people's job necessarily to provide you with criticism, unless they are your art teacher. I suppose it is quite literally their job to actually criticize your artwork. But the average person looking at your artwork, if they just say, "Hey, it looks great," and they don't get in depth, I don't think you're in a position to be angry with them because that's not their gig. Maybe they just and maybe they really do believe it looks good to me, but it is sort of interesting that that can be a challenge. Simply getting honest criticism is something that can be hard to get hold of. And then also the second half, worth just tossing out a little comment on there about how in the age of the internet, we are sort of surrounded by critics at all times. Anything that you put out on the internet, people seem especially eager, as haters or trolls or whatever, to attack you and tear you down. And I have a theory, actually, in a way, that because of the internet, younger people growing up with that type of criticism will probably get a little thick-skinned compared to earlier generations, just because they're exposed to more just like over-the-top, harsh criticism than previous generations would have experienced. And I'll have more on this later, but I do believe that sometimes people invalidate their own criticism in the way that they form it, in the words that they use. They are essentially disqualifying themselves from critiquing you because they're so mean, or they say things that prove that they don't really know what they're talking about. Anyway, more on that later. Let's move on now to number 4 from Tree Hugging Maniac. The person criticizing wouldn't bother if they didn't think your work was worth improving. So really, it's a compliment in a way. Interesting way of looking at it, and quite true. Some people have heard me talk about my mentor, David Small. When I was in college, I had great children's book illustrator David Small as a teacher. And indeed, he did not spend a whole lot of time focusing on the students whose work he did not see as having so much potential. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing for a teacher to do, I suppose that's a different topic. But I think he did indeed focus on the people that he saw as having a lot of potential to pursue this professionally someday. And those were the people that got the attention, and that meant that they were the people that got the criticism. So I think that is true, that from that point of view, it is kind of a compliment. The fact they wouldn't bother, some people anyway, wouldn't bother devoting a lot of attention to you and your work if they didn't feel that it had the potential, that it was worth focusing on. And I wasn't able to quote, I was only able to choose 10 quotes, but somebody along the line said that they would differentiate with criticism based on how long the comment was. A longer comment showed that the person put time and thought into it, and they would pay attention to that. So sort of related in a way. I think someone who stops and spends a long time critiquing your work is in a way saying that they take it seriously, and they feel it's worthy of this level of scrutiny. So that I thought was an interesting topic worth covering. Let's move on to number 5 here from John Allen. I have come to understand criticism more as I get older. When we first start out as creative folks, praise is one of the factors that fuels our next creations. Criticism can stop us in our tracks. Over time, praise contributes less to our growth, and it is through criticism we stretch and grow. Very mature comments there, and full of wisdom. And I think it is true that especially when you're young, criticism hurts really bad, and it can paralyze you. And I will sometimes see comments, not so much as I prepared for this video, but I have seen comments over the years in which someone effectively blames their teacher's negative comments for stopping them drawing. This teacher told me I was no good, and so I stopped drawing for 10 years. And I think, man, what a tragedy. Definitely, if you can not allow a teacher to have that level of power over you, that is best, really. I mean, I can't imagine someone's criticism hurting me so bad that I would completely stop doing something that I loved. But it does happen, apparently, and that is really a tragedy, I think. But I think for most people who truly love something, they won't allow criticism to literally stop them in their tracks, as John Allen put it. But it is sort of interesting. I think over time, as you get older, as the years go by, you come to value good criticism. It doesn't hurt you as bad as it used to. And interesting in his comment how he says that praise contributes less to our growth, that he almost says you start to, not pay attention to praise. What good is praise? It makes you feel nice, but it's not actually contributing to your growth. As someone who is addicted to praise, I'll tell you, I never get tired of praise. I love praise. But it is true that it's maybe a good criticism is probably worth more in the long run in terms of helping you improve. Let's move on to number 6 here. From The Chuckled Gamer. Criticism is just an opinion, and I'm not going to fight it, just work off of it. And I must admit that the real reason I chose this comment is for the first 5 words alone. Criticism is just an opinion. And that is so true, and I think we sometimes lose sight of that. We begin to feel that there is some sort of etched in stone consensus out there that is more like fact. When someone says, your work is no good, we may mistakenly regard that as, something that is beyond argument. And that's simply not true. All opinion, no matter who it comes from, is opinion. Any criticism that you get is not something that is just absolutely beyond dispute. I think we lose sight of this, and it is good to just keep in mind at the end of the day, it's just an opinion. It's just someone else's opinion. And, in a way, you need to pay attention to the way the criticism is worded so that you can see if the person even gets what you're trying to do. I mean, I think that's the main way that someone can disqualify their criticism, is that in the way they word it and what they say, you can just tell they don't even get it. They don't even understand what I'm trying to do here. In which case you are liberated in a way from giving their criticism very much attention. So let's see, what is the next one? Number 7, from Tal Key. Quite honestly, for me it depends on delivery. A kindly said constructive criticism is to be looked into, and I usually appreciate it. And yes, indeed it is true. The way criticism is, the way the words that the person chooses can go a long way toward making it easier to handle criticism. I had a poetry teacher in college, Conrad Hilberry, and he was just really great at, we would read our poems aloud or whatever that we had written. He was always really good at offering some sort of supportive comment, prop you up to begin with, and then he would very gently, give you a criticism that would help you see things that still needed to be worked on. I thought it was interesting, though, as I thought about this, that should we allow really just the simple phrasing of the criticism to have that much weight? Whether it is blunt or gently phrased, if it comes down to the same basic truth about your work, maybe you shouldn't allow the way it is said to have too much weight. Anyway, that was something that occurred to me, that if you are only listening to the criticisms that are phrased in a very gentle, kind way, and ignoring anything that sounds blunt, then you may be cutting yourself off from actually, valuable criticism that the person just doesn't, they don't have tact, or for whatever reason they're not so good at phrasing it in a gentle way. Anyway, just a thought there on that one. This next one, number 8, from William Hampton. I don't take most forms of criticism well in the moment, but I do find myself taking their criticism into consideration later on when I have cooled off. I love that comment, and I think that's very true for me as well. Sometimes, especially when I was younger, I would have a kind of a knee-jerk, well, forget you, man, I'm not going to listen to you kind of attitude. But, if there was validity to that criticism, it would sort of stick in my head, and I would not just completely forget about it. And then maybe later on I would indeed find myself saying, hey, maybe they're right about that. So it's probably wise to allow a sort of a cooling off period after you receive criticism before you decide whether to take it seriously or not. I think you can, with a little bit of time passing, come at it with a cooler attitude and maybe get a little distance and not allow your emotions to get in the way. Number 9, this one from Hannah Onyx. Hope I'm saying that right. If I'm being criticized by people in a way that comes across as them sounding ignorant to the subject, it's easy to ignore them. And yes, this was something I referred to earlier. Very often the commenter is phrasing their criticism in a way that just betrays their ignorance so clearly that I don't need to even listen to this criticism for a second. I follow on Twitter this account that they take Amazon movie reviews from people who have given movies, really great classic movies. They give them one star, and then the review is it just makes you laugh, like someone giving The Wizard of Oz 1 star, and then they say something like, I can't take it when people just randomly break into song. Well, this person has revealed they don't like musicals in general. So, of course, they're not going to like The Wizard of Oz. And so we don't have to, if the people who created The Wizard of Oz were still around, they wouldn't have to take that criticism too seriously. It's nothing personal. And I think very often you'll see that, if, say, you like to draw in a manga style and someone says, manga sucks, man, then it's nothing personal to your work. They just don't like anything that's in that style. So very often, as I said, people sort of nullify, whether they realize it or not, their own criticism in the way that they phrase it. People may be wondering, what is he sweating? No, he's heading through the rain on a motorcycle, and that's why I'm drawing all this water going across him. I may have to sort of mute these lines a little bit in Photoshop later on. Let's see. Here we come to comment number 10. Don't worry, there will be a lightning round in just a second. Here we go. Comment number 10. It's always good to remember that you and your artwork are separate. If someone criticizes your art, they're not criticizing you. They're criticizing your work. This comment from Jet Set Alchemist. And that is very wise, very true. If you can somehow get a little distance from, separate yourself from your work, they're not criticizing you as a person. They're not saying that you are bad or awful or terrible as a person. They're just looking at your artwork. And that's a separate thing. I often wonder if, for an actor, like a movie actor or a stand-up comedian, if they are in a rather more difficult position because it's a little harder to separate, right? I mean, when you do artwork, you are indeed, you've got this object that you created that is separate from you. If you are a movie actor, people criticize your acting, it's got to feel kind of like they're criticizing you because there's like no separate things. But anyway, I thought that was a good thing to wrap things up on. And I'm going to add one final quote here that is not from one of my commenters. It's from a world-famous, very wise actor, comedian, Bill Cosby. And he said, "I don't know the key to success, but the key to failure is trying to please everybody." Love that quote, and in a way that sort of brings us to the idea of being highly selective about what criticism you listen to. Don't fall into the trap of trying desperately to please everyone. First of all, it's not possible. It truly cannot be done. You will never please everyone. Second of all, in your effort to please everyone, you will maybe make your work a little too bland, right? You end up making something that's like vanilla ice cream. You're trying to make this very pleasant thing that doesn't offend anybody, and it's not quirky or unusual in any way. And, generally speaking, that's not as Bill Cosby said, that's the key to failure, he said. He put it in a pretty harsh way there, but maybe it's true. The key to failure is trying to please everybody. And I think that is sort of connected to this aspect of criticism and to what degree you take it on board or ignore it. Well, let's move on to the ever-popular lightning round. And our first comment comes from Patrick Starr, and I like to think that it's from the actual Patrick Starr watching my YouTube videos on his TV down there under the rock in Bikini Bottom. But the comment is actually not a silly comment. It's a kind of a poetic comment, and it is this. Nobody will stop me from hiking where I want, but everyone may tell me interesting locations. I like that way of putting it. And it does sort of, if you stop and think about it, that sums up a lot of things about criticism and the attitude that you ought to have toward it. Next comment. I like this one. As simple as it gets. It's from Mika Sun. I don't like criticism. And I love that. And it's like, well, at least you're honest. I don't like criticism. I just don't like it, man. Next one from Pencil Samurai. Equally simple, and this one makes me laugh. People are mean. It's so true. People are mean, especially in the age of the internet. They seem to be getting meaner and meaner year by year. Let's move on to comment number 4 from Rage Panda. I love that name, Rage Panda. And the comment is, I handle criticism by dying a little inside. Yes, I think we all sort of die a little inside when we get harsh criticism. This is the lightning round, so I need to keep moving. From the Doodling Dude. First thing I do is take my chair and throw it out the window. Then I flip the table and break the rest of the windows in the room. I hope you don't get criticized too often, man. Because that could be very expensive for you, Doodling Dude. And Dark Janet has a comment that made me laugh. I don't like being criticized because Mrs. Baker just criticized me very badly. I love the specificity of that. Mrs. Baker, why did you criticize Dark Janet so badly? I think you need to apologize. And moving on to number 7 from Ryan Gensch. or Gensch. Hope I'm saying that right. I just say I'd like to see you do better. That makes me think of the, I should say it in the Brooklyn guy voice. Yeah, I'd like to see you do better. What, can you do better? No, you can't. So why don't you just keep your mouth shut? Let's move on to the next one from Llama Cake. Keep calm and eat potatoes. Well, I like potatoes, so I guess that's why I liked that comment. But I suppose that's a way of dealing with criticism. Finally, not finally, but second to finally, number 9 from Hadoken Thrower. The worst criticism ever. You forgot the blushies. Yes, believe me, I have been on the receiving end of that criticism, and it is pretty hard to deal with. But I have pulled through one way or another. And we get to the last one of them all. Comment number 10 in the lightning round from Alistair or Aleister. Not sure about the pronunciation there. Alistair Altima. Wonderful comment here. I say to them, eat the flames of honor. And I don't see how I could put any comment after that one. Anyway, that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you so much, everyone, for commenting. I really enjoyed seeing the breadth of opinion on this topic. I found it very interesting. And as I said, I have done 5 other videos. I've decided to bring them all together into a playlist. If you enjoyed watching this type of video that deals with a topic of this sort, and people's opinions on a topic like this, you can watch the 5 other videos all in one playlist. I'll put a link at the end of the video. And you know what? I'm not even going to pull out the books this time, but I will say thank you to anyone who has bought my books. I do appreciate it. And time to lay down this pen. Thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back with another one real soon.